call the member for Ballina.
Thank you, Mr Acting Speaker. I speak today, arise to speak on the Technical and Further Education Commission Amendment Funding Guarantee for TAFE Bill. The object of this bill is to amend the Technical and Further Education Commission Act 1990 to ensure that no less than 70% of funding for vocational education and training is allocated to the TAFE Commission. While we New South Wales Greens commend Labor's commitment to TAFE and a cap on contestable funding, the Greens believe in universal education and a fully funded public provider should be the priority for this government. The Greens want to go further and see 100% of funding for vocational education and training is given to the TAFE Commission. We know that the restructuring and downsizing of TAFE New South Wales has not happened overnight. Decades of an ever-increasing transfer of planning and administration capacity, compromising of independence and direct access to the minister, undermining of curriculum development capacity, setting up a divisive, competitive structure based on national competition policy and downgrading teachers' support and working conditions have hugely impacted our public provider. The principles of free public access and social equity and contribution to citizenship and recognition of teachers as professionals has made way for a user-pays, corporatised commodification of education where students are consumers for financial returns and teachers are shopkeepers or training technicians delivering curriculum packages. It is the philosophy and ethos of TAFE grounded in democratic participation and social justice that is at stake in current debates. This government cannot claim that the decline of TAFE under Smart and Skilled has been an unintended consequence, because exactly the same thing has happened under similar policies in Victoria and Queensland. The Australian Education Union Federal TAFE Secretary Pat Ford has said that the experience from other states in Australia showed that once TAFE was privatised, it was almost impossible to get it back. We know that the forecast in enrolments in TAFE for 2016-17 are that there may be 126,000 fewer students enrolled than there were in 2012. Of this number, up to 14,500 students may be students with disabilities if the forecast is accurate. When we held National TAFE Day here at Parliament in June, 2 students spoke of their experience of declining services and access to courses. TAFE student Lucy, who has 2 different disabilities, said she had struggled to complete studies because additional access options were reduced due to funding cuts. Another student, Lawrence, said he too struggled to get the learning support he needed for his dyslexia because additional support staff had lost their jobs at TAFE and in his experience, private providers didn't offer the same support. AEU Federal TAFE Secretary, again Pat Ford, is calling vocational education and training privatisation a disaster. And she's telling us politicians that we need to face up, to guarantee funding to TAFE and to shut down the failed vet fee help scheme, which gratefully is on its way. Although how much time and how much energy had to be put into that campaign to reverse that ridiculous system. Consider the cruel irony. We had a fully funded free TAFE system in New South Wales, which was free for all students. Then the government introduced fees, and after a huge community backlash, vet fee help for some students, and we were meant to see this as an amazing step forward, and that was the big concession. Given the loss of free public access to education in this sector, guaranteeing that at least 70% of vet funding goes to TAFE is the least that we can do to ensure that TAFE remains at the centre of our vocational education system. The New South Wales Greens call on the New South Wales Government to scrap the privatisation of the TAFE system and stem the flow of billions of taxpayer dollars to for-profit providers. Quality vocational education cannot be left to the open market with a small amount of regulation on top from the government to prevent the worst excesses. Quality vocational education needs to be a central goal for any government that wants future citizens that can think critically and adapt to rapid change. And I do commend the member on this bill. When I had to leave school, Mr Acting Speaker, to look after my mother who had a disability. She had a brain injury when I was 15. And I was able to go to Seaforth TAFE to do my HSC in 1 year. Now we were struggling financially because my mother was a single mother and she had lost her job and she never worked again. I know that under the current system, in those early days, before all of the assessment would have happened for my family, I would have slipped through the cracks, even with the concessions to students from low socioeconomic backgrounds. And the red tape and the bureaucracy and the time that it takes to enrol, those things are impediments. My life would have been absolutely different if I did not get my HSC. So it's something that we have forgotten, that this is a conversation about universal education. And the other thing that we've forgotten, Mr Acting Speaker, is that universal education is at the heart of a civilised country. It's at the heart of what we value. And we have lost that. So when people are talking about 70% or any percentage, we've forgotten that it is actually the birthright of all Australians to have access to free education. The corporate model of education will not engender creativity, innovation and lifelong learning. It is the responsibility of government in this country to provide universal education for its citizens. The choice in this debate should be between a well-funded and fully resourced public education system and other systems. Instead, we have a choice between a resource-starved public provider and a casualised teaching profession and government-funded corporate models. We, the Greens, wholeheartedly support this bill as a massive improvement, but we would urge the government to go much, much further.